Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. A bit of a hiatus or break between these style of videos, but a HSR analysis. We've finished the 4-star characters. We did all of them, and they are all up in their respective playlist. You can check all those out if you want to know about a specific character. But now it's the journey of going through all of the 5-star character. There is a fair few of these 5-star characters, roughly the same as the 4 stars, just one extra. And these are going to be a bit more in depth, as obviously they are going to be a bit more game changing, a bit more technical, a bit more understanding required. So we're going to go through all these in video by video, analyzing their kits, and essentially giving you guys the rundown of if they're good or not, what do they provide, what are their actual roles and whatnot. And then after we finish, obviously, all the 5 stars, once all of these are done and once technically every single character is done, I'm going to make a standalone video just making an arbitrary tier list where I put the characters in a tier list that means practically nothing, but it's just going to be a rough idea of what's going to be good or what's going to be not the greatest, but still probably going to clear the game because it's a Mihoyo game and most things can clear Mihoyo content. But that's for another time. For now, today's video is about Bailu, a new character actually that was only released in the third closed beta, which is going to mean something along the lines of she's going to have a bit more of an updated kit, which is going to be a bit weird, obviously, because I am doing this alphabetically. She's going to have a bit more of an advanced kit compared to some of the older characters like Himiko, for example. But that's enough of a spiel. Let's get into the actual video. Lightning character, which is interesting because she's like a like a serpent. So lightning damage as well as abundance, and abundance, if we remember, is a healer, a pure healer. And to no surprise, Bailu is going to be the best healer in the game, alongside any other 5-star healer. But for now, she is incredible. So her standard attack is just the same thing. 5 stars have no higher percentage than 4-star characters, so there's no like damage reason that you would go for this character over any other character. The basic attack is just 110% at the highest, so that's that. So we'll just forget about that for now, and probably for furthermore characters we'll also probably forget about it. But the skill is where it gets interesting. So it heals a single ally for a certain percentage of Bailu's max HP plus an additional amount. Again, max HP scaling. Furthermore, Bailu then heals a single ally 2 more times each healing. After each healing, the outgoing healing for the next healing is reduced by 15%. So essentially, you'll heal one ally for this amount of percentage plus this amount of extra, and then the next heal that happens of these 3 in total, it'll be 15% less of this, and then 15% less again, so to a 30% diminishing return. Which is still, to be quite frank with you, a very good heal, by the way. Seeing as you'll probably have this character have extremely high HP. You're going to be running mostly HP things. You're going to have high HP, like multi-healing, or essentially 3 casts of the ability, 2 if you really want to be mathematical about it, is really high healing, just from a skill, which is really good. But that's not where it stops. Her ultimate heals all allies for a certain percentage of her max HP, plus an additional amount. And then for all allies that are not invigorated, Bailu invigorates them. And for those who are already invigorated, Bailu makes their invigoration last 1 more turn. Invigoration by default lasts 2 turns. This effect cannot be stacked. Now, by default, that just means nothing, right? You just get the flat heal. Where the invigorate comes into play is in the talent. So when an invigorated ally is hit, it heals the ally for a certain percentage of Bailu's max HP plus an additional amount. This effect can be triggered up to 2 times. So your ultimate applies a dot, or a hot if you want to call it, a healing over time, technically, called Invigorate onto allies. And allies that are then subsequently hit by an enemy, when an ally that is invigorated is hit, they will heal. So it's essentially kind of like not necessarily a lifesaver, or like a cheat death, until later, which we'll get into in a second. But it is a nice like quick last minute heal onto the character before they take some maybe heavy damage or take any damage at all. So Invigorate is a very good mechanic to have on your characters at all times. And it's further extrapolated obviously through the Eidolons, which we'll get into in just a moment. But again, let me continue. When an ally is knocked down, or knocked out, or killed is a better way to put it, Bailu immediately heals them for a certain percentage of Bailu's max HP plus a certain amount. This effect can only be triggered once per battle. This last part is a cheat death. You'll just be able to revive one character straight away, much like Barbara's C6, much like Chi-Chi C6. You'll just be able to revive a character instantly once they are knocked down, once per battle, enhanced in the Eidolon section, which we'll get into a second here. And the technique I won't even mention, but you just kind of start it and you apply Invigorate to all your allies at the start, which is fine. It's good if you have constellations or, sorry, Eidolons, but other than that, not really that important. Going on to the traces. First one, when Bailu heals a target ally above their normal max HP, the target's max HP increases by 10%. If you overheal, essentially, if a character is at 100% HP and then you heal them, they'll have an increased amount of HP by 10%, which is it's a nice bonus. It doesn't really give you much of an advantage unless your Bailu goes first in the turn or something along those lines. So it doesn't really help, or unless your healing is that great that you are like constantly over healing. But it's a nice bonus. It's not going to be overly impactful though. Second trace, Invigoration can trigger 1 extra time. And naturally, Invigorate can only trigger 2 times. It just bumps it up to 3, so it's a nice little kind of extension. It doesn't boost the turns or the amount of turns that it lasts on the actual character. It still lasts 2 turns, as it is Invigoration can last for 2 turns. But it just triggers the amount of times that the healing effect, which is triggered on hit, can actually proc. That's one thing that you have to distinguish, that it's not an actual turn increase, but it's a proc increase. So that's that. And then the last trace, which is probably, to be quite frank, the most impactful one. Invigorated characters receive 10% less damage overall. Just a 10% damage reduction. It's a flat amount. You just want to be able to have all your characters invigorated at all times. So maybe an energy recharge build to have that buff at all times would be great. But yeah, this is probably the most impactful one. And so far, the character standalone without Eidolons is fucking incredible. The best healer in the game right now. I haven't even gone into the light cones. But even just without any, taking those things into consideration, the healing amount is extremely powerful, as well as the healing frequency. That's a big thing to really kind of acknowledge here, is that she's healing for a decent amount. 18% of her max HP, which is usually going to be higher than most characters, so you're going to be healing for, I don't know, per proc 25+% of most characters' HP, because obviously HP build, just with the skill, and furthermore, it's enhanced through the other parts. And that's just of single use, but then you have the Invigoration hit, which is healing over time, depending on the situation, a revive, all without going into the Eidolons, which is the part that also we have to understand, that this is all without Eidolons. And so, if you do get a Bailu as your first character or one of your early characters, definitely don't think of this as some sort of weird detriment, like getting a Chi-Chi. She obviously only does heal if you don't get Eidolons right now. I will be honest, only provides healing. No real damage boosting, but it is an unparalleled amount of healing and or damage reduction, obviously through the one of the traces. So you can pretty much use this character indefinitely for probably the first 6-8 months of the game's lifetime until they introduce more healers or higher content. But yeah, the character without Eidolons really good, but obviously they are enhanced with Eidolons. So let's start and have a look at them. First Eidolon, if the target ally's current HP is equal to their max HP when Invigoration ends, Bailu additionally regenerates 8 energy for this target. A very odd Eidolon to have as number 1, and a very odd one to proc. And here's essentially what it is. If the target that has Invigorate is at 100% HP, they are 100% HP, and then Invigorate ends, Bailu regens 8 energy for that one target. The reason this is weird is because it's just the potential of it not happening is very high, seeing as only 0.1% of your HP has to be missing, and it doesn't proc. Other than that, it's fine. A bit more energy recharge for Bailu never harmed anyone. But the only problem with it is that the failsafe is not that strong. It has a high chance of failing unless you have probably one of the strongest Bailus in the game. If that is the case, if you have one of the strongest, then it's neither here nor there, eh? So it is what it is. Moving on, Eidolon 2, after using her ultimate, Bailu's outgoing healing increases by an additional 15% for 2 turns. It's more healing on top of more healing. You just heal like an absolute metric shit ton. Obviously, it counts towards your invigoration, the flat heal on your burst. It counts all towards that, and it's for 2 turns, so it's going to persist for the next few procs of invigorate as per usual, which is very good to hear. Eidolon 3, skill +2, talent +2. It's quite standard. We'll keep it as that. Eidolon 4 is every healing provided by Bailu's skill makes the recipient deal 10% more damage for 2 turns. This can stack up to 3 times. Very good. So, the recipient of Bailu's skill, so whoever you use Bailu's skill on, which is heal a single ally, and then heals a single ally 2 more times, the recipients of that heal gain a stacking damage buff of 10% per stack up to 3%, 3 stacks, sorry, which is 30%, is very good. This makes her actually a bit more than just a heal bot. This makes her a bit more of a damage booster, and this is probably where, not the bare minimum, but this is where the character will probably see most of her play rate per se. You'll probably use the character a lot, but this is where she'll probably skyrocket in terms of usage because 30% is not a small amount of damage boosting. Now, the one thing to point out is that I'm unsure if these extra 2 procs right here count towards adding extra count towards the stacks. So if all 3 of the heals that happen from this skill happen on one character, will that character now have 30% damage bonus? Or do I have to cast it 3 separate times? That is a question that can probably be answered internally, but I think it's safe to assume that because of the synergy between it, and because of how you can just read and interpret it, that all 3 like heals that come from the skill, the initial one plus the 2 extras, they count towards adding a stack. So if all 3 of those go on the same character, that character will then thus have 30% increased attack damage, more damage, if you obviously have Eidolon 4. Great Eidolon so far. Eidolon 5, ultimate +2, as well as basic attack +1, standard again. And then Eidolon 6, although not a greatly impactful one, it's always nice to have. You essentially now just get 2 revives instead of 1. If you just so happen with Bailu to have a character die, which is, I'll be honest with you, very unlikely if you even have like Eidolon 4, 5 or anything like that. The chances that you're going to die with a Bailu on the team is very low. If it does end up happening, you have 2 revives instead of just 1, so it's a nice bonus. And yeah, Eidolon-wise, Bailu is not the strongest character I've seen, but here's the thing, there are a few good ones. Eidolon 1 is not incredibly good, because obviously I like to recommend which Eidolon is going to be like good to go for if you're going to invest in the character, whether a featured banner pops up or anything like that. And if I was to recommend which Eidolon to go for, it would be Eidolon 2. It solidifies her as the strongest healer in your team if you have her at Eidolon 2. It does that, it just solidifies her more so than she was before, obviously. And you obviously get a bit of energy regeneration. After that, I wouldn't recommend investing unless you can probably get to Eidolon 4. The skill level up and the talent level up obviously could be impactful and could be good, but this is all coulds and maybes, so I don't want to recommend it. It's always better to just get like gameplay impactful ones instead of just raw stat boosts. So if you can get to Eidolon 4, that would be the next checkpoint. And then Eidolon 6, I wouldn't even bother trying to get. I really don't think a revive is overly important. I've honestly, out of the C6 Barbara that I've had in Genshin has never revived me, maybe once in my whole time that I've played her. You don't use the character for the revive, in my honest opinion. So if you want to get the character to some pretty decent value, above for obviously standardly high value already, Eidolon 2 is the answer. But the best value, probably, in my opinion, would be Eidolon 4. That would be the stopping point, in my honest opinion. And Bailu is a fucking goated character, but this is not even her fullest potential. Obviously, we're not taking a lot of things into consideration, one of them being the light cone. Now, we're going to start off with the signature, and then I'll recommend some 4 stars if you don't get a signature. Now, her signature is increase the wearer's max HP by a certain percentage, which is decent, and then also outgoing healing by a certain percentage, which is also very decent. And that is the flat increase that you'll have when you just equip this. Obviously, you'll have the raw stats, but these are the raw percentage increases. After this, it's a bit of damage, which is negligible, but it's damage based on healing. So, when the wearer heals allies, it records the amount of outgoing healing. When an ally launches an attack, a random attacked enemy takes additional damage equal to a certain percentage of the recorded outgoing healing value. This damage is the same type as the wearer's and is not affected by other buffs and can only occur once per turn. So, just a bit of damage. The higher you heal, the more damage you'll deal. But also, the higher refinement light cone you have, the more you'll also deal damage, which is a big thing to take into consideration. Obviously, the value at the refinement 1 is 50, at refinement 5 it's 100, so if you're healing for like, let's say 7k, and you only have refinement 1, you're only going to get 3.5k damage out, which is like still decent, by the way. It's still very good and very nice, but just percentages and whatnot is very important. So this is obviously going to be Bailu's best in slot. There's no argument about that. I'm not going to try to say it's not going to be her best. It's all around what she does, and with the consistency of healing, you'll be able to do a lot of things very well. So just, if you get this one and you get Bailu, just know that you've gotten yourself the best healer in the game on launch at least. But 4-star recommendations is always a good thing to get into. So post-op conversation is always a good one. Regeneration rate of energy as well as outgoing healing by the ultimate. And not necessarily that the invigorate buff is classified as an ultimate, but the actual initial healing is there, so that's fine as well. You could also go for shared healing, increases the wearer's outgoing healing by a certain percentage. It's a flat amount, so this part is really good. It's a flat amount universally, so this one is a bit more recommended. But then when using skill, regenerate a certain amount of energy for all allies, also gives her a bit of a utility. So far, shared feeling is probably going to be the best one, but obviously warm nights won't last. Increases the wearer's max HP, and then when using a base attack, restore all allies HP by a certain percentage of their respective max HP. It's okay. This one's a bit more of a scaling one. You'll have to, have high percentage, like, level up talent, so your actual health matters more. But naturally, I'm going to recommend the one that's a bit more supportive instead of the one that is pure healing, because it's just a bit better to have supportive characters rather than pure heal bots. So out of the 4 stars, shared feelings will give you the best value because healing output as well as energy regen for your allies is always a great thing. 3 stars, I won't recommend. It's probably Cornucopia. Both of them probably work, but Cornucopia is going to give you the best one. So 4 stars, shared feeling, but if you have the 5-star version, get that 100%. But that's not all. Again, Bailu is going to be the best healer in the game, but obviously they're further enhanced by relics and planetary ornaments and whatnot. And this one is going to be actually a bit of a split, because obviously there's 2 sets and 4 sets, but you can also rock 2 sets here. And that is what we're going to do. So the ones that I'm going to recommend is this. If I can just find them here really quickly. I do apologize, I'm having a struggle finding them. Was it here? Where is it? Well, the first one I'm going to recommend is increase the outgoing healing by 10%. It's just good. It's just flat out good. Right, 10% outgoing healing is really what you want. Now, maybe I misread it. I think maybe I did misread it. I thought there was a max HP one. Might have been in the planetary ornaments. But regardless, this is like a guaranteed. You need Passerby of the Wandering Cloud, 2 set guaranteed. That is bare minimum of what you need. You could go for the 4 set if you want to have a nice start on the round. When, like, as soon as you enter combat, you have a nice start. And if you're doing like single target boss fights or something like that, or maybe like just like repetitive fights across the, maybe in some sort of like multi-enemy faceted fight, some sort of roguelike dungeon, by all means run 4 set of this. It's going to give you a lot of a better ramp up to your damage, or to your healing. My apologies, to your healing. But if you're going to rock something a bit more utility wise, the damage reduction would work. Lightning damage could also work because just increase the damage output. But also break effect. Break effect is something that you really do need. And if you're going to sacrifice a healing character, or sacrifice a DPS character for a healing character, you're going to want that healing character to be able to do a lot more things. So 2 set of the Thief of Shooting Meteor would also be a very high value, because 20% break effect plus 10% healing outgoing. It's all just a nice, great combo. So those are the ones I'd recommend. Depending on the situation, you could go for 4 set Passerby, but I'd recommend 2 set Passerby with 2 set Thief of Shooting Meteor. It's just going to give you the best value in my first initial opinion here. And as for the planetary ornament, I would recommend going for the Fleet of the Ageless, if Bailu is going to be your pure healer / kind of support. Mainly because max HP increase obviously makes her healing scale higher, because she has more HP. And then also a bit of a speed dependency of 120, but when it is 120, increase all allies attack by 8%. Now, I'm unsure if this last part here, the 8% stacks with multiple equipments of this, because I think I have recommended Fleet of the Ageless on multiple different characters from the 4-star category. I'm unsure if this stacks. I presume not, because obviously the limitations and whatnot. But regardless, I would recommend putting this one on Bailu, as you can get her to do a damage bonus, pardon me, and also a massive healing boost. So that is that. Fleet of the Ageless is the planetary ornament with Passerby of Wandering Clouds 2 set and Thief of Shooting Meteor 2 set. And that is probably going to give your Bailu the most value. I say probably because I don't have any gameplay to back this up. I am just doing the theory crafting in my brainicle, and I'm coming to a conclusion. So hopefully that gives you guys a bit of insight on how to build Bailu. So far, the first 5-star we've covered, and a very impressive one at that, but I also feel like Bailu has set a very high standard for 5 stars as I'm doing this alphabetically, so maybe the older characters from the first 2 betas may not be able to hold up, but we'll have to find out when we cover them. Hope you guys did enjoy the Bailu one. If you did, like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support, and I'll catch you guys in the next Honkai Star Rail character analysis. Peace out.